If you are trying to say whether a cheap bicycle as Decathlon ST20, which is the abbreviation for Short Trail 20 model, is suitable for touring, commuting, general purpose fun cycling, as well as for exercising, I think you have come to the right place. I want to give you my opinion about this particular bike. To give you a short background of myself, I've been bicycling for the past probably 15 or 20 years using primarily Bianchi 105, a road bike which is around $2,000 or 1.6 lakhs in India. I have ridden it for more than 100 kilometers on several rides. I also had sported a Trek mountain bike 3700 for quite some time, which I sold off after some time. And now I have come to an age where I am not requiring the bicycle for the purpose of racing or trying to test myself, but just for the sake of fun, for the sake of some exercise, and if possible, some amount of touring. The Decathlon ST20 is a steel bike, very cheap bike, about $100 US and about 8,000 rupees in India, where I bought it from Decathlon quite recently. I think it's about a week or 10 days back that I bought it. And I have done 2 or 3 rides on that. And I want to give my first impressions on this bike based on my recent experience. I became interested in touring and doing cycling just for the sake of fun since I have retired about 4 years back. I no longer wish to ride the road bike for long durations for the purpose of speed alone. I want to use it just for the sake of fun. So I was looking for a single speed bike done with the 105 group set of the Bianchi. I became a minimalist few years back and I'm trying to minimize everything. Cycle gear is one such thing. So that's how I bought the Decathlon ST20 for a cheap price. I was not really looking for a very cheap bike, but then I was interested in a single speed bike, preferably made of steel, so that I can load it up and hopefully it will take some shock absorption as well for vibrations on the road and it would become a comfortable ride. Incidentally, in India, we do not have those expensive bikes that are meant for touring, and this one came along my way. I thought, why not give it a shot? The bicycle mostly comes assembled. The assembly is pretty simple, although I picked it up at store, so they did the delivery for me, including the assembly. But it's mostly assembled 90%, it's not a big deal. Um, the very first impressions when I look at the bike is it's a robust bike, really feels quite strong. It is heavy compared to my 9.5 kgs of Bianchi road bike. This one is a hefty 14.5 kgs. It's a full 50% heavier, but I thought, what's the big deal? Ultimately, we are talking about 5 kgs difference, which doesn't matter when it comes to cycling. The bike doesn't look anything fancy. It looks okay to me. Nothing bad, nothing particularly spectacular about it or beautiful. But I thought I would customize it and personalize it so that it becomes one of a kind and represents me as the bicyclist. And for that purpose, whatever the bike has got, I think it is adequate for me. It has got a V brake system, which is not particularly spectacular, but I was surprised it really works well. It does really work well. In terms of the comfort of the bike, again, it's an average bike. Doesn't have any kind of suspension, but it has got broader tires compared to a road bike, and therefore there is some amount of plush which is provided by the tires, and it feels fairly comfortable, I would say. The saddle which came along with it was a very simple, cheap saddle which did not suit my requirements. I had an eye on the Brooks leather saddle for the last probably 10-15 years, ever since I bought my other bike. But here in India, neither it is available, or even if it is available like right now, it's way too expensive for me. I found a cheap duplicate made in India at Rajasthan. It's an identical copy of Brooks. The quality of the leather itself, I'll have to wait and watch how it is, but right now I got it fitted. I was so passionate and enthused about this particular leather seat that I paid 6,000 rupees for the saddle, which is nearly equal to the price of the bicycle itself. But something on which I am going to sit for long hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, I don't know how long in my future, I thought it should be worth spending a good amount of money on the saddle. And if I have not spent a lot of money on the cycle, why not spend a decent amount of money on the saddle? I have ridden today and I should say it is damn good. With this saddle that I got, the ride quality has been very decent, quite comfortable, I should say. In fact, I'm surprised why I did not buy this saddle a long ago, but I don't think it was available at that time in any case. I had been looking at Amazon for leather saddles for a very long time. This saddle is so damn good. It is worth every penny rupee that you spend on it. In fact, I want to give a 6 stars if it is available at Amazon. Unfortunately, it limits to only 5 stars. This saddle is so damn good. The break-in has happened today itself. I had oiled the seat on the bottom as per the instructions of the manufacturer, and I did not use any cycling shorts today. I wanted to try it out with a thin bottom of legging tights, and it worked out pretty good. I was very comfortable, and the break-in has happened. I can see those two dimples on the saddle. One advantage of riding a bicycle such as this, which has got wider tires, is that it can take bumps much more easily than a road bike. You can go over the bad patches without any kind of hesitation. You can go over mud areas or some amount of sand without hesitation. Likewise, some dampness on the road also doesn't trouble. So in terms of the confidence of riding the bicycle on the road, it has been very good. So not only on highway roads and paved perfect tarmac roads, even on the rural areas that I was passing through, I felt quite comfortable riding this bike. In fact, had it been my road bike with its very thin 23 tires, it would have been tough to ride through. But this bike has given me a lot of confidence going through all those internal villages. Now, one advantage of going through villages that is you come across a lot of people questioning you, talking to you, and I could get a flavor of touring today, how it could be when I take up in future. It was a lot of fun, people asking me what I was doing on this bike with all my gear, which they rarely get to see in villages.
Hello.
And like I said, the roads were not the perfect, but then I could ride it well. Yes, when it comes to speed, um, I was not getting the average that I was getting on my road bike. It was quite slow. Even after considering that my today's ride has been a very light one, I just took it as an entertaining ride. My maximum speed on somewhat downhills was about 30 kilometers per hour, and my uphills, which were very easy ride up, were about 10 kilometers per, I would say, and some of the gradients were actually very steep. I was hesitant if I would be able to go uphill with this bike being heavier and me not being used to. Had it been my road bike, it would have been nearly impossible for me to go through those kind of rides without getting into the best possible gearing ratio much before I had hit the gradient. But on today's bike, I just took it easy. I didn't have to even stand up and pedal. Right sitting on this saddle, I was able to ride up the climb without much difficulty. So, one thing that I have noticed about this bike is that being a single speed, uphills are relatively easy, downhills you don't go much faster. On the plain roads, you don't go as fast as the road bikes, but if you are willing to spin, which I don't, you can go faster too. Being a steel bike and all the components that seemed pretty strong, I think the longevity of the bike shouldn't be a question at all. I have a feeling it'll run for a very long time. It has got some nice panniers which I got it as extra, and these panniers can take heavy weights. I am planning to put some panniers on that in future, and also I have personalized this bike on several aspects. For example, I fitted this torch, the headlight, which is adjustable for the focus and the distance, and it has got blinking and high beam, low beam, all kinds of those options. I had some blinker on my helmet, the red light blinker which is facing towards the back. I bought a cheap cyclo computer for this. This is a wired version. When I bought my previous bike, I was quite hesitant and did not like the idea of cables at all. But for some reason on this bike, because the bike itself is so cheap, I didn't like spending a lot of money on the cyclo computer and always worry about somebody picking it up when I park it somewhere to pick up some coffee or have some tiffins on my way. So this is a cheap wired version. As you can see, the wires don't show up really bad. I think it looks okay with the overall setup that I am going to do on this bike with all the panniers and all kinds of bags and everything. I think the cables hardly show up. Functionally, the cyclo computer was working pretty well for me. I also fitted the central stand for that. The center stand is very convenient when you want to change the rear tire tube if there is a requirement. So that's one of the reasons. And if I wanted to clean up the chain or any kind of adjustments, I thought center stand is useful. Plus, I didn't have to look for a pole or a tree to lean the bike into. Worst come worst, if I don't find anything, I can put the bike on its center stand and use the combination lock easily. Also, for similar reasons, I did not buy a very thick, heavy bicycle lock. The cycle itself isn't very expensive. I don't think anyone would venture into wanting to rob this bicycle from the road. So I went for a lighter version and got this combination lock. I have not upgraded the pedals. The pedals seemed decent for me. I have clip-on pedals on my other bike, but I don't intend to shift them onto this bike. So overall, I think the bike suits my requirement of touring. I would say if you plan to do for commuting or even for the sake of fun, it would do well. My heartbeat rate went up to 150 while riding this bicycle during up climbs and if I was riding faster. And when it was an easy ride, I was at about 120 heart rate. So I think between 120 to 150 is where you burn a lot of calories without risking your heart or yourself. So this is a fun bike for exercising as well. When it comes to pros and cons, in terms of pros, the advantages, like I said, one is the ability to ride this bike anywhere. That's a big advantage, definitely. I wanted to be able to ride anywhere without any kind of hesitation or without the risk of falling down if I didn't take enough care. Such that that's a big advantage for sure. Another advantage is that it being a steel bicycle, I can put a lot of weight in terms of a frame bag, a handlebar bag, fork bags, front fork bags, or rear panniers or seat post bag. Anything I want, I will be able to easily put on this bike comfortably. It can take a lot of weight, it being a steel bike, so that's another advantage. The bike itself being cheap, I will not be overly worried, if I park it somewhere and lock it. I think I will be able to have my coffee or have a snack, with a peace of mind when I'm inside a cafeteria. um, I think those are some of the major pros that I see. In terms of cons, yes, it is a heavier bike and it does feel heavy when I ride the bike, partly because of the weight and also I think substantially because of the wider tires. Wider tires with a lower air pressure. I am used to something like 100 psi on my older bike, whereas on this one it is barely 50 psi. So that difference is bound to make a difference in terms of how much pressure you'll have to put in terms of riding. The roll factor is definitely slower because the wheels are 26-inch wheels on this, whereas on road bikes typically you would find them as a 700c, much larger, and therefore the roll was good. But mind it though, the bigger wheels are advantageous when you go on straight roads and downhills, but uphills the 700c was much tougher compared to the 26 inches on this particular bike. For those of you who
Enjoying
are
my
not
ride.
familiar, the road bike wheels are often referred to in centimeters, which is 700 centimeters. I think it comes to equal out of 27.5 inches or so. Whereas when it comes to the smaller wheels for hybrid bikes and mountain bikes, we refer them in terms of inches, which is 26 inches in this case. So the smaller wheel is an advantage, but is a disadvantage also in some respects. Um, I don't think there is anything particularly con other than this that I have mentioned on this bike. Overall, the bike has been good, for simple, easy rides. So overall, I would conclude that as far as I have seen so far, the purchase has been a good one. The decathlon experience itself, let me be frank, it was not very pleasing. I had a lot of difficulties dealing with decathlon. If I had got it delivered at my home and assembled it all by myself, I think it would have been a much smoother experience than me trying to pick up from the store and they offering me to do the assembly. There were several mistakes and they didn't seem to be knowledgeable enough in terms of professional cycling. But overall, I think the bike itself is quite good. Uh, as the name appropriately calls it as a short trail. For short trails, this is decent. You don't need a mountain bike with the heavy suspensions front or rear. It's a hybrid, so you can go anywhere you want. You can put a lot of weight. So if you are somebody trying to do touring, trying to do commuting to office with your computers, lunch boxes and whatnot, or simply if you want to get some exercise, I think this is a very decent bike. If you are trying to do heavy mountaineering, you would need much wider tires and preferably suspension systems. If you are trying to race, trying to get faster, then I think road bikes are the way to go. Um, Other than that, like I said, it's a decent bike at a low price. Now, some of the other bikes which I would have picked up possibly if they were available in India at a reasonable price were professional touring bikes. But mind you, professional touring bikes are very, very expensive. The ones that I could see in India run over 2.5 lakhs. It will be around $3,000, and at that price, I wasn't going to pick up a touring bike, especially until I've tested myself if I will be doing adequate touring or not. So, if you are looking for a single speed for the sake of simplicity of maintenance, for the sake of simplicity of riding the bike without thinking whether you should improve the gearing ratio or lower the gearing ratio, then this is very convenient. I found it so comfortable and satisfied that I didn't have to think about changing the gears at all. Just focus on riding, enjoy the surroundings, and finish your ride. Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this bike. I hope you got some useful information from this video. If you did, please like and share it with your friends if you think it makes sense. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to put the comments, and I will try to respond to them as quickly as possible. Have a nice day or evening, whatever is left. Bye bye.